Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news as Erik ten Hag fights back and calls the media liars. Also, very interesting article from Rob Dawson and Mark Ogden in the ESPN saying that the players have had enough of INEOS. They're not impressed. They don't like what they're doing. They don't like how they've got rid of people. And apparently Bruno Fernandes had enough in the summer. And Man United panicked and kept him. And certain United players are not very happy with how Ten Hag behaves and how INEOS behaves. Well, look, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you've got everything about that, which we'll get into, and then you've got Ten Hag saying the media are liars. So one or the other, which way are you going to go? Let me know. We'll certainly go into it all. What I would say from the outset is if Bruno Fernandes had enough at Man United because they weren't winning things and was threatening to go, and Man United panicked and gave him 300 grand a week, that sounds very much like something the Glazers would have done many years ago. And also, I don't think Bruno Fernandes or Marcus Rashford or Casemiro are in a position to be pissed off with anybody because their individual performances over the last 12 months haven't been at the level that they should be. So I somewhat take it all with a pinch of salt, but we will delve into it all. I think tomorrow's a massive game and we've got to do everything we can to win that game as players, as fans, as a manager and as a club. And the best answer and the best medicine is to win games of football. But lots to get into. And if you believe it all, then there's some very big stories to discuss tonight. None more so than ridiculous things about Sir David Brailsford saying he's really rich and lives in Monaco, but he's come to Manchester to sort it out. And the players not being impressed with that either. Weak player mentality. On the one hand, players are not impressed with INEOS, and on the other hand, they don't like Ten Hag speaking about them publicly. It sounds like a football club that is more about brand and, hurt feelings, and it's just the sort of thing that would probably make Roy Keane and Wayne Rooney and David Beckham throw up. What have we become as a football club? It's a pantomime, it's a circus. Anyway, before we get into all that though, lots to get into tonight, and it's a Friday night show, so we've all had a drink of something, whether it's water, wine, or whatever else. Make sure you get your comments in. It's Friday night, and welcome to any new members. And if you want to gift any on a Friday night, that's fantastic too. But we're sponsored by Surfshark. The weekend is coming. This is really useful. Obviously, you can use it for whatever you want to use it for. Surfshark is a virtual private network, which means what it basically is all about is protecting your online data and privacy when you're online. It securely safeguards your private messages, your photos, your videos, and it allows you to change virtual location on platforms like Netflix for global content access. So if you are in the UK and you want to watch something that's in the States or India or whatever, you can change your location with Surfshark to New York or Delhi or wherever you want. And then you can watch things that they're watching on a VPN, which is Surfshark. They also offer you Surfshark One Suite, including alert for personal data breach, private ad-free browsing, antivirus, and alternative ID. You can use it on unlimited devices, so you can have it on your phone, on your laptop, on your TV with Android, iOS, you know what you're talking about. And you use the code United Stand for an extra 4 months free. So if you like the sound of all that stuff, you can actually use the code United Stand for 4 months free. Fantastic. Links in the description. Scan the QR code. Grab the exclusive offer with the code United Stand for premium digital protection. Thank you very much to Surfshark for sponsoring today's show. Give it a try. Okay, let's fly straight into. I want to talk about what Ten Hag had to say, but I think it would be wrong not to delve straight into some of the stuff that has come out of this article from the ESPN. But before I do that, I just want to read what Erik ten Hag had to say about sacking reports. He said, "No, the noise is only coming from the media, from some of you, not all of you, creating stories and fairy tales, bringing lies, because I know as a club we're all on one page within this club. I said before the break, but several journalists probably didn't believe me. Within the club, it's quiet, and obviously that means it's business as usual, and they're focusing on what they're doing." Where was the story that Ten Hag was going to lose his job? I felt that there was a big chance he was going to lose his job after the Villa game, but then he drew 2 games and you thought, well, that might not be enough, not in early October. Many people said it was. Many people said that would be enough, but obviously that hasn't come to pass. I think, as I've said many times before, There is so much crap being written out there by journalists who aren't getting any information. And look, one skeptical person could say this hit piece on INEOS by ESPN could be journalists trying to dig at INEOS because they're not getting anything out of them. You know, sources from the dressing room are saying this and that, and, you know, and maybe it's just journalists getting frustrated with INEOS because they're not getting anything. I saw something else from Christian Falk today saying that Man United's 3-man shortlist is the former Dortmund coach, Terzic, Nagelsmann, and the Stuttgart manager, and that talks have taken place with some of these people. Somebody else is talking about Amorim being number 1. And I'm sort of like, this is all great if you want to read a comic, but I want to live in reality. And you are not getting sources, Christian Falk, from Manchester United. INEOS are not ringing you up. They're not ringing up Play Goal, and they're not ringing up the ESPN, and they're not ringing up the Manchester Evening News. These people are getting their information from third, fourth, fifth party people, and that's what's going on at this football club. And that is why we get ridiculous stories about we're in talks with Thomas Tuchel when he's already signed for bloody England. That is why we get talk about we are going to sign the Dortmund coach because he's free from a German journalist because he's German and Bundesliga. So I just think there is a lot of crap out there and it's very difficult. And I'm not saying that I or you have the answer to every question, but I am very skeptical about things because I think, well, where is this information coming from? And also the press have got a very, very good reason to be anti-INEOS at the moment because they're not getting anything. And I certainly don't think that an ITK or a certain Twitter account or a certain journalist in Germany is getting the inside track on Manchester United. I don't think anybody is. I really don't. And I've said that to you before. I think after the international break that we've had, it's very, very clear to me that if they decide to sack Ten Hag, it'll probably happen like that. Because I don't think anyone's going to get the brief. Mojo has gifted 20 memberships. Thank you very much. And Nelson says, I've never been this delusioned as a United supporter. This is goodbye. I've got to be honest, I'm really excited about the game tomorrow, but we can talk about that in a bit. Let's get into this article from the ESPN then, because it's very interesting what it says. And there's a few things I want to go into. But first of all, I want to just talk about this bit. For the players, sources have said that the experience of playing for Manchester United now seems like anything but representing one of the game's most illustrious teams. I mean, that's disgusting, isn't it? I mean, wherever that's coming from, whether it's fake or real, if Manchester United players have said that the experience of playing for Manchester United now seems like anything but representing one of the game's most illustrious teams, that makes me very, very angry and it makes me very, very sick. And as I said, I'm very skeptical of anything that's coming out of the media these days. I might be wrong, I might be right. One thing's for certain is that Manchester United players and coaches leak, and they still do leak. So I'm not at liberty to say that Mark Ogden and Rob Dawson haven't got good information from within the dressing room, and this is not true. There's certainly a lot from both journalists that we'll go through tonight. But if there was any truth in the fact that some players don't feel like they're representing one of the game's most illustrious teams, there's the door, go forth and prosper, which basically means fuck off. I really have got no... I remember Manchester United in the 80s when I was a kid and I started watching them. And you had this sort of, what you've got now actually, very similar to what I had when I was 6, 7, 8. So my granddad would put the VHS tapes on of Sir Bobby and the Busby Babes and George Best, and you'd watch all this success. And then you'd turn the telly on a Saturday night or watch it with your granddad or whatever, and you'd watch Match of the Day and Man United would be nowhere near the top. And I'd be like, I couldn't get my head around it. But obviously Man United weren't very good then. We weren't winning anything. We certainly weren't in league titles. But the prestige of Manchester United, even though we weren't winning titles, was still there. We're still Manchester United. It's still Manchester United, the promised land. It's still Manchester United, this great football club with a great story. So if I heard a player going, well, you know what, it used to be good at Manchester United, but now it's far from feels like you're representing one of the game's most illustrious teams, well, that's one of the biggest bloody problems then, isn't it? Because I and you, if I was putting on a Man United shirt in League One, I'd still feel the enormity of putting a Man United shirt on and playing at Old Trafford. And this is the problem. What monsters have we created in that dressing room if there's any truth in it? I don't know whether it's true or not. What I do know is over the last 10 years, that would feel like it was right. It doesn't feel like people put the United shirt. I mean, I don't see it. Honestly, I got to be honest. When I think about it, do you think about it? Do you think it? When I think about United in recent years, how many players do you think put that shirt on and realise what they're wearing? I mean, I've seen players in my lifetime put that shirt on and it means something. Maybe there is something in that. Maybe they don't feel that. But if they don't feel it, they're not the right fit. I don't understand that. That's got nothing to do with the Glazers. That's got nothing to do with the debt. That's got nothing to do with buying shit players. That's got everything to do with the mentality and personality and drive of the individual. Because you could put me in a shit Man United team and every Saturday or Sunday I'd put that shirt on and I'd still feel it. We might get beat, but I'd still feel it. So I don't really get that sort of mentality. And it's, again, if you were to believe this article, it's because the way the club's being run. It doesn't feel, I don't feel like I'm representing a big club anymore because the club's being run into the ground. Fuck off. We're not here to serve you. You're here to serve us. And I think that's the big line, isn't it? We are not here to serve these millionaires a plate of it's easy. You are paid to put that shirt on and carry the history of this football club and embrace it. That is your job, despite what's going on. Despite what's going on off the pitch, you should be delivering on the pitch. It also goes on to say, 2 people told ESPN that Bruno Fernandes was prepared to leave this summer after growing tired of the club's repeated failure to deliver, but eventually stayed and signed a contract after, according to one source, the club panicked and gave him a massive new deal. Now, we've got a massive game tomorrow, and that's my focus, and that's why I'm a little bit like, at the end of the day, it's an article from journalists who may or may not be telling the truth. I don't know. But if this was happening a week ago, this would be a massive story, because that is 2 journalists with access to Manchester United's press conferences. Will they have that removed? Because that is one of the most inflammatory things I've read about a Man United captain in years. If that was Marcus Rashford, the shit would hit the fan. They would be banned. Like, that is absolutely disgusting. And I'm not saying the journalists are disgusting. I'm not saying Bruno's disgusting. But if I'm at Manchester United, these are not 2 journalists that, live in bloody France. These are 2 journalists with access to the Man United press conferences who have literally put pen to paper and say that they've been told that Bruno Fernandes wanted to leave in the summer because he was tired of the club's lack of ambition, but eventually stayed and signed a new contract after the club panicked and gave him a massive new deal. That is horrific if there is any element of truth in it. You make your mind up, I'll make my mind up. You're grown up, I'm grown up. I'm not going to stand here and go, it's all lies. It's lies, I tell ye. And I'm also not going to stand here and go, Bruno's a bloody disgrace. He didn't want to be here. We gave him a load of money. He's a bloody mercenary. I don't know what the truth is there. I don't know what the truth is. But what I do know is that's 2 journalists who we know who they are, writing that in print, knowing that the club could react to that and ban them. How do you react to that? Because you can't just leave that story out there. I mean, that story, in essence, says that our captain wanted to jump ship because he'd had enough, and then the club said, name your price, and persuaded him to stay because they were scared of him leaving. That stinks of the Glazers. This is what the Glazers have been doing for years. Chuck money at the problem. Did it with Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba literally said in 2019 that he wanted to go. He was here for another 3 years. So how do you interpret that? There's more. There's more to get into, but how do you interpret that? I interpret that, if it's true, I would say 3 things. First of all, who is Bruno Fernandes to say I've had enough? The club's not delivering. He was shit from Christmas until the summer. He's got to look in the mirror. As the app Stam said, the players have got to look in the mirror. You're not Lionel Messi. You're not Cristiano Ronaldo. You're not Yamal. You're not a world-class player who's delivered or has a reputation for delivering. You're a very good player that's fallen off. So you're telling me in the summer when you played crap for United for most of last season, you fancy Bayern Munich and an easier ride? when this club and this fan base has had your back from day one and supported you when certain people in the media, certain ex-players have called you a bottler, said that you wanted to get subbed off against Liverpool and you wanted to leave. It's a very bad look for Bruno. And as I said, if they said this about Rashford and it wasn't true, woe betide them, because the club would be all over it. So I hope they're going to be all over this, because it's a horrible story to be associated with Bruno Fernandes. And I don't know whether it's true. I'm going to assume it's not true. But the damage that does to someone, to our captain, if that is not true, is very, very worrying. The second thing I would say is, well, it wasn't like there was a queue of clubs looking to buy Bruno Fernandes. He's got 2 or 3 years left on his contract and we wouldn't have let him go for any less than £100 million. So whether he was prepared to leave or not, why would the club panic and give him a new wage when he had nowhere to go? Unless, even worse, he was threatening to go to Saudi Arabia. Because if he was going there, don't talk to me about ambition, bruv. That is just all about money. So I'm going to assume this story is not true, and I'm going to assume there will be a reaction from Bruno and the club about that story and how damaging it is to the captain of Manchester United. Because if there is elements of truth in it, then I'd be terrified as to where Bruno was thinking he was going to go, because I can only think Saudi Arabia, which is not ambitious, is it, in a footballing sense? It's ambitious in a money sense, and everyone's got the right to do that. And thirdly, if the club have panicked and given a guy who was on 240k a week with 3 years left on his contract, 300k a week and 4 years, that's bloody ridiculous, and that's got the Glazers written all over it. So, you know, I don't really know what to think about it. I'm going to be sceptical about it. But what I will say and what I will concede is those two journalists are well-known journalists. I mean, we've had both of them on the United stand, and I'm not going to sit here and call them liars. But what I will say is that's massively damaging to Bruno Fernandes, and I would not be very happy about that if I was Bruno Fernandes or Manchester United if it's not true, because it's very, very damaging. In essence, what you're saying is the captain of the club held the club to ransom, wanted to leave, and then got a load of money out of us. So true, Mark. There's a country club atmosphere at the club that infects the dressing room and the mentality of our players, says Chris. Thank you very much, Chris. If they win tomorrow, I'll buy your book, says Andreas. I'd buy the book anyway. It's very, very good. Mojo says, I don't think that statement is made by any United player, but then again, those players have dropped the standards themselves. It's like saying you're stuck in traffic when you're part of the traffic itself. Very good, Mojo. Can I just give a big shout out to Mojo, by the way? He was gifted 20 memberships tonight. Sometimes people gift memberships on a Friday night. Mojo's gifted more memberships than Amazon Prime. Thanks very much, Mojo. You're an absolute legend. I've never been this disillusioned. Done that one. I just want to feel proud of wearing my kit again, says La Familia. And Patrick Lynch, thanks for your super chat, Patrick, says players and managers performing well and winning, trying to live up to its history, is that makes it illustrious. They need to get a grip. Thank you very much. And also, we had something about Erik Ten Hag here. Sanil says Erik Ten Hag has no idea of what INEOS talk internally. Exactly. I would actually agree with you on that. Anyway, the article doesn't stop there, because it goes on to say that many of the players have become underwhelmed by the impact made by INEOS. While there has been anger within the dressing room at not simply the departure of several long-serving staff members as part of their job cuts, but also at the treatment of some of them. One member of the ground staff had been at the club for over 30 years, a source said. He was let go by the club and was sweeping up on his own on his last day with tears rolling down his face. Nobody did anything for him despite all the years he had given to the club. Well, look, I can't talk about this. Again, we're talking about two journalists with very strong links to Manchester United who attend press conferences and have done for years. This is talk about players feeling underwhelmed by INEOS. This is talk of players being disgusted at the sacking of long-serving staff members as part of the job cuts. We know these job cuts took place, and I said at the time, we can all talk about, you know, whether we're going to sign a summer player and this, that and the other, but morally, Man United have let over 200 people go, and some of those people would have been at the club for a long time, and some of those people will not be on 100 grand a week. They'll be on 40 or 50 grand a year. And this will be their main source of income. So those sort of things get forgotten and swept under the carpet very, very quickly. And they are very serious issues, of which we've spoken about. And some people aren't interested in it because it's a football club and why should I care about that? But to be honest with you, I don't really understand where the players come in on this, because many of the players have been underwhelmed by the impact by INEOS, while there has been anger with people losing their jobs. These are footballers earning hundreds of thousands of pounds a week who can't be asked to turn up for 75,000 fans most weeks. So are we to believe that these multi-millionaire footballers who are ridiculously inconsistent have suddenly got a conscience and are worried about the common man or woman on 40 grand a year losing their job? They could solve that problem overnight very, very easily. And they don't give off a lot of, care for the ordinary Manchester United fan. So I don't necessarily buy into that. I think morally there is a question to be said about how INEOS have behaved with that. But whether, I find it difficult to champion the players being worried about people losing their jobs when they can't do the job themselves. I mean, I think we've all said it. For all those people, whether they be groundsmen, admin staff or whatever, losing their jobs, do they deserve to lose their jobs as much as the multi-million pound players that we've bought over the last 10 years that have actually crippled us? I mean, for every person that's lost a job from the ground staff, imagine the damage a Di Maria did to us. We spent £60 million on him. We sold him for £44 million 12 months later. That's £16 million down the drain, plus whatever his wages were. When Ander Herrera was bought for however much he was bought for, and then he walked out the door for nothing, how much money did we lose there? When David De Gea walked out the door for absolutely nothing, when he'd been on 300 grand a week, and we replaced him with a £50 million goalkeeper, how much money was lost there? So I don't really empathise with the modern footballer feeling sorry and underwhelmed by people losing their job, when a lot of the playing staff of Man United have contributed to that. Their failure has contributed to our debt. It's contributed to these cutbacks having to be made. If we were in the Champions League this year, we'd have more profit coming in. So, yeah, look, it's a very moralistic question, and it's a very fair one to talk about, people who've lost their jobs. But players suddenly growing a sense of morality, we've not really seen much of that from Man United players over the years, if I'm being honest. The Manchester United squad were also left underwhelmed by Sir David Brailsford, who apparently was wearing certain clothing. I can't remember what it was, but I certainly do remember that it said that he'd said to the players that he'd come from one of the richest streets in Monaco to Manchester to make them great again. Apparently that didn't go down with them either. I mean, it makes you wonder what would go down with them well. Like, at the end of the day, the INEOS venture is about making Manchester United great again. What is it the players want? Because I get, if you want to believe any of this story or any other story about Man United over the last few years, I am very confused as to what it is that these players actually want. They don't want to train in the dark. They don't want to, turn up week in, week out. They're not impressed by INEOS coming in and telling them how they're going to make them successful. They weren't impressed by Ranić because they'd never heard of him. It just seems to me that we've got a very collective, spoilt group of players who actually remind me of the petulant child that no matter what you try to feed it, it doesn't want it. Whatever happened to a mentality of, realistically, all I'm interested in is playing for Manchester United and winning. And if you can provide that platform for me, then great. If you can't, then I just want to get out there and win. There just seems to be an excuse culture, which we've seen, a blame-shifting culture. And the mindset, as David said, got weaker since De Gea left, massive leader. Aditya says, do you think the amount of content and commentary about United makes it difficult for the club to make progress? Lots of points of views and no direction from INEOS. Well, I thought there was I think it's a very good question from Aditya, because I think there are people out there that like to make excuses and point the fingers at journalists and fans and the United stand and websites and everybody else, and basically say, any criticism is just contributing to the failure. It's too toxic. It's too negative. I saw what Romelu Lukaku had to say, and he basically said that when he'd left Manchester United, he saw Paul Pogba at Juventus, and they sort of looked at each other like the Spider-Man one and went, yeah, I can see it in you that now that you've left the negativity of Man United, you're happy again. And I saw a lot of people commenting on that, saying, well, you know, that's the problem, isn't it? Players leave Man United and they're suddenly happy and they're firing. Mate, it's the Italian league. He's not gone to fucking Barcelona or Real Madrid and won the Golden Boot and the Ballon d'Or. They're playing in the Italian league. Like, I like the Italian league, but it ain't the bloody Premier League and it ain't Manchester United. And ultimately, those players have not gone off and been the envy of Manchester City or Real Madrid, have they? Like, they may well be happier not being under the spotlight as much. That's great, because maybe they weren't able to deliver under the spotlight. There's been plenty of Manchester United players, whether it be Wayne Rooney, whether it be Cristiano Ronaldo, whether it be Eric Cantona. I mean, Eric Cantona kicked a fan at Selhurst Park, came back and won a double. David Beckham got sent off in the World Cup and was booed and threatened for a whole season away from Old Trafford. We won the treble. So I have very little sympathy, being a little bit older than some of you, with this mentality that I hear from people like Romelu Lukaku about, oh, United's just so negative and it's a pressure cooker. And when you get out there, you feel happier and you play better. You never had the mentality in the first place. In fact, I've said time and time again, Romelu Lukaku was a bad signing. I didn't really like it at the time. He is not the level that Man United should be operating with. I don't look at Romelu Lukaku and think, oh, if only we'd been a little bit more positive, his first touch wouldn't have ended up in Sainsbury's supermarket car park, would I? The problem with Manchester United is you can't judge the pressure of Manchester United because we haven't got the players who can live with the pressure. And if you're old enough to have remembered the team that won the first few Premier Leagues in the early 90s, or the treble in 99, or the team that should have won the treble in 2008, the scrutiny and focus has always been there. In fact, in some ways, social media makes the negativity get diluted, because what it used to be was there was no access to event as a player. So you had a very small selection of media outlets and journalists that could basically rule the roost and say what they bloody liked about anybody, which is why people like David Beckham and Cantona got vilified. And that's why we had this siege mentality under Sir Alex Ferguson. But to create a siege mentality, you've got to have players that want to be part of that. I think Man City do it quite well. No one likes Man City. Their fans like Man City, but no one respects Man City. But yet Pep Guardiola and his players have managed to create this situation where no matter what, they crack on and they win titles. Manchester United used to be very, very good at this, but you can't create a siege mentality when within that... A siege mentality is basically, I've got a castle, you're never going to get in these walls. We've got enough food and enough fighters to fight you off forever. And they can't get in. They can throw stones, they can throw cannons, but they can't get in. The trouble with Man United is there are people in that football club who want to build that siege mentality. They're fighting from the front. Next thing, they're being stabbed in the back by the enemy. They turn round. Some of your own fighters have let them in through the back door. Leaking. So I don't agree that the negativity of Manchester United makes it impossible to succeed. The problem is the recruitment of the wrong types of mentalities. We're lacking leaders. We're lacking leaders. And which is why that Bruno Fernandes story is very, very concerning, because if there's any truth in that, a leader and a captain that was thinking of abandoning ship in the summer and was paid to stay, well, you're never going to get a siege mentality if you're players like that. And also, let's be fair, footballers are human beings. If you're Kobe Mainu, or you're Garnacho, or you're Rasmus, or you're Ahmad, and you're reading that tonight about Bruno, is he the guy that you're going to, jump over walls for when you're thinking, I don't know whether he was going to do that or not as well. So it's the whole leadership problem. And I look at it and I go, I'm pretty sure there will be people in the club who don't like INEOS, but screw you. Screw you. I mean, I didn't want INEOS to get into bed with the Glazers, but that's what we've got. INEOS are in charge. I don't want to hear about players not being happy with INEOS. If players aren't happy that INEOS have come into this club and sacked people, do you think Sir Jim Radcliffe, when he got hold of this club, went, can't wait to get into Manchester United and sack people and put them put them into poverty or whatever? I can't wait to do that. I just bloody love it. I love it. Oh, I don't even care if the club's top of the league and we're making loads of money. I just want to sack people and look at the misery on their face. And that's the flip side of this coin, isn't it? You'll read the stories about INEOS sacking people and, oh, they're so evil and the players don't like them and they're sacking people here, there and everywhere. Why are they sacking people? Because the club's on its fucking arse. It's on its arse. And we're in debt. And we didn't sell to Qatar. So we haven't got a bucket full of money. We've got debt. We've got the Glazers. We've got a rusting, rotting team and stadia. So you're going to have to make decisions. What is it that these people want? Oh, just keep everybody. Keep everybody. Don't make any cost cuttings. Don't try and trim things down to survive. Let's just carry on the way it is. Weak mentality. It's weak mentality all the way through, in my opinion. Anyway, also goes on to say that the Manchester United squad left Wembley after May's FA Cup final win against Manchester United, expecting to start pre-season under a new manager. Some were expecting Southgate, get rid of these players. I mean, what members of the squad thought Gareth Southgate was coming to Manchester United and decided that was a good idea? I mean, I've never heard such shite in all my life. Look, I'll say this again with a calm Friday night feel. If you think Gareth Southgate is a Maidstone United manager, you probably got it about right. If you think there's anything about that clown being a Man United manager, football's not for you. Football is not for you. He is a failure with a capital F. Don't talk to me about Euros finals and stuff like that. The road to those finals was a piece of cake, and he still screwed it up. I mean, Wembley, 1-0 up against Italy, and a home game, and you park the bus. There is nothing about this guy that has got any correlation with being a Man United manager. And anyone who thinks he is an absolute clown. So if that's true, that some players were expecting Southgate to come in, that shows you the footballing IQ of some of our players if they think Southgate's the guy. I mean, that just tells you how thick and stupid some footballers are if they think Gareth Southgate's the solution to Manchester United. Morons. Anyway, Erik ten Hag ends up staying at Manchester United. This goes on to say in the ESPN, he's fundamentally an honest guy, but he had to be told last season to soften his approach with the players. He was too critical too often, but sometimes it was down to use of his English. He speaks the language, but he doesn't have a great grasp of it or the nuances. For instance, he pissed off Casemiro last season for saying he was dropped for footballing reasons. Erik meant tactical reasons. I'm sorry. He ended up angering a multiple Champions League winner by suggesting he was criticising him as a footballer. Whoa! I could not give a shit if the manager of Man United says he's subbing a multiple Champions League winner for football reasons, and I would not be apologising for the nuances of the English language. Casemiro was shit in that game and should have been subbed at half time. Why should the manager of Man United have to say it was tactical reasons to hurt the feelings of a shit footballer on 350k a week? I mean, this is where we're going wrong. Who are these players if there is elements of truth in this? I couldn't give a shit if Casemiro has won 5 World Cups, the Grand National, the Snooker World Championship and the Olympics, every bloody event. If you play shit for Man United, you get subbed off. He got subbed off against Liverpool at the start of the season for football reasons. Those footballing reasons, he was fucking shit. It can happen to us all, mate. We can all have a bad performance. Own it. Look in that bloody mirror. I'll tell you what, if Sir Jim has cancelled the Christmas party, get yourself down to IKEA, Sir Jim. I would say it's going to cost you less than £4,000 to buy 30 mirrors. Wrap them up and give them to each player. I'm telling you what, will be better in the second half of the season if they put a big fucking mirror in their bedroom and look at it. I mean, I've never heard such shit in all my life. You know, Erik ten Hag is too blunt with the players. He meant to say tactical reasons, but he said, I took Casemiro off for football reasons. I mean, imagine that. It's like when Ollie had to bloody apologise for saying something about Rashford a few years ago. What's going on at this football club? As if Sir Alex Ferguson would ever have to apologise for what he said. I don't know. I think the only time he apologised is probably when he kicked that boot at Beckham. But, I mean, you know, ridiculous. Also goes on to say that Ten Hag's handling of Jadon Sancho and Rashford also caused disharmony within the squad. While there was initial support among the majority of the players for the discipline of Sancho after the winger was dropped, sources say the treatment was soon regarded as heavy-handed and displayed a lack of flexibility on Ten Hag's part. Too much power in. I mean look, I've just got to say, we are dealing with an article here from 2 journalists that access Man United press conferences. We can't just sweep it under the carpet willy-nilly. But what we can say is it could be a load of bollocks. But on the other hand, there could be elements of truth in it. But whether there's no truth in it, all this stuff is very damaging. The Bruno stuff is very damaging. And if it's not true, there needs to be a response. Whether there will be, I don't know. But again, hypothetically speaking, I couldn't give two shits what the squad think about how I deal with Jadon Sancho. I really couldn't give a fuck. If you've got a problem, come into my dressing room, one-on-one, tell me what you think about what I've done as a manager. We'll talk it out. And at the end of the conversation, I'll be telling you, I don't give a shit. Get focused on playing football. If you want to talk to me as a player and tell me I've handled Jadon Sancho wrong or I've handled Casemiro wrong, how's about go and play 5 times well for this football club and then I might listen to you. But if you're not going to play well for the football club, really, I'm more bothered about that. You're not Roy Keane, you're not Wayne Rooney, and you're not Eric Cantona. You're an underperforming, overpaid, inconsistent player who focuses too much on what's going on off the pitch than what's going on the pitch. Now, fuck off. But it's true, isn't it? It's true. And I think this is one of the big problems at the club. I think there's too much focus on what's happening with your mates and how they're being treated. You have massively underperformed as a team for years. And the team is all that matters, not the individual. There probably are some players that individually are very exciting at Man United and have performed. But as a team, you have failed. Do not be knocking on my door about what I have said about underperforming players or lazy players. Focus on your own game. Buy a big mirror. Some players have struggled to boost their confidence under Ten Hag's hardline approach, and sources have told ESPN that one senior player asked low-level members of staff to give him motivational talks before games to help his morale. Fucking hell. Send him to fucking Stockport. I mean, come on. I mean, look, I'm in no way diminishing the weak mentality of some individuals, and if they have those weak mentalities, then yeah, and they do need help and support, get it. This is Manchester United Football Club. If you need all that, you're at the wrong club. I'm sorry. We must always acknowledge the failings and weaknesses and issues of footballers. They've worked really hard to get where they are. But this is Manchester United, or this is Liverpool, or this is Arsenal. If you are worried and can't deal with a hardline approach, I find it laughable. I find it absolutely laughable, to be honest. Also goes on to say that sources have told ESPN that Rashford's loss of form and focus last season was not helped by Ten Hag regularly criticising the player in media interviews, again, partly exasperated by his limited grasp of English. I mean, this is where I'm just starting to think bollocks. I really am. I mean, I don't think this helps Marcus Rashford. And again, if I was Rashford, I'd be jumping all over this. It doesn't help the relationship with players and the fans. It's basically a bomb going off again a night before a game. You don't know where to go with it, which is why I'm very sceptical of it. And how can we have a sentence that says Rashford's form has been because of drop-off has been because of Ten Hag and not helped by Ten Hag, when I know for a fact, and you know for a fact, that Eric Ten Hag has bent over backwards for Marcus Rashford. If anything, he's picked him too much. I remember countless times last season saying he should drop him. Marcus Rashford went out on the piss before training on a Friday night. He was back playing 6 days later. The fan base was going mad, saying he should apologise. He should not be playing for 2 weeks. We got no apology, and Ten Hag started him against Wolves 6 days later. How the fucking hell has Eric Ten Hag been associated with a loss of form and focus for Rashford by criticising him regularly? I mean, he's literally the other way. He never stops praising and picking Marcus Rashford. So I'm not for 1 minute saying that maybe Rashford has got a problem with Ten Hag behind the scenes. I don't know. But perception is everything. And I certainly could not sit here with a straight face and say, yeah, Ten Hag's got it in for Rashford. Yeah, he's the reason. He's the reason. And Bruno, the same with Bruno. Bruno could never say, oh, Ten Hag, that's why I'm playing shit. I mean, he literally has been, if there's two favourites in that team, it's Rashford and Bruno, isn't it? They are the two favourites. He picks them all the time. He praises them all the time. He encourages them all the time. I just can't figure out where this criticising has come from. And as I said, after the Belfast incident, Ten Hag absolutely had his back and got him back in the team as soon as possible. Although Ten Hag kept his job after the FA Cup win, he would only survive as part of a reshaped coaching team. We've read all that. Ten Hag returned to the level. Ruud looks like a manager and he acts like one too. So here we go. You know what? The more I read of this, because I've sort of done it with you, the more I read about this, the more I'm just like, it reminds me, The Athletic and Laurie Whitwell do an article like this once every couple of weeks where it's sources. And here we have the SBN doing a load of sources. And I just don't buy a lot of this. I really don't. So Ruud looks like a manager and he acts like one too. He has one-on-one meetings with the players and there is certainly an aura about him. Nobody will say it, but if he became manager at United, nobody would be surprised. And yet, we get to where we're getting to, don't we? This is just... I mean, I'm not saying it's not true, but I'm not saying I believe it either. It just feels like it's an angry media because it's not getting anything from the club. And it's desperately trying to get stuff from the club. And the club still does leak. But when you're getting information from people who've got an axe to grind, you don't necessarily get the truth. And also, players wanting Ruud van Nistelrooy. Well, I'm sorry, we've just had a whole article about how weak and morally inept some of this squad is. And then we're meant to trust them that Ruud van Nistelrooy is the solution. I like Ruud van Nistelrooy, but there's nothing about him. I'm sorry. There's nothing about him that says Manchester United manager. There's nothing about him that says he could deliver it in the Premier League for Manchester United. And, you know, he has been here for a few months and we're struggling to score goals. But I just see it as a big hit piece on the INEOS, on the players and on Ten Hag. I mean, there's just very little positive in there, is there? And we go back to what Ten Hag said at the very start, that the people stirring this up is a media that's obsessed with getting what it wants. And I just don't buy into it. I really don't. I think it's all he said, she said, whispers and rumours. And this is why, if I was a Man United player tonight, I wouldn't be getting too stressed. Because I'd be thinking, look, the only answer is on the pitch. We win our next 3 Premier League games, all this goes away. The only way to shut this down is to win games of football. If I'm Marcus Rashford or I'm Bruno Fernandes or I'm Casemiro and I'm having any wind of this tonight, I'm like, fucking focus tomorrow. You know, we don't want to put the shirt on. We're leaking here, there and everywhere. We want to leave. We're weak. You know, we need motivators because we can't motivate ourselves. We feel a bit, you know, threatened. Come on. You've got to be reacting to this shit, really. The moronic fans will want Ruud after 10 games, says Angel Bomb. Mario Franco says, journos using aura as evidence, pure trash. This is sweaty journalism, says Nick P. And this means a cuddle booth at Carrington soon, says Gavin. Dougie with his first super chat. Thank you very much, Dougie. This Friday night, hope you're doing well. Appreciate the community. I've been following since 2021, I think. 201,000 followers. Love the community and the growth. Thank you very much, Dougie. As Eric Ten Hag outer, listening to this makes me feel guilty for Ten Hag 100%. These players are a disgrace, says Sulai. You know what, mate? I started reading it at about 7:30 and I thought, you know what? I don't want to read this until I read it with the community, because if I read it before, my mind, when I read it second, is getting it second hand. I wanted to go through the key points with you, and I've been on that journey with you for the last half an hour. And obviously, I can say if there's truth in that, it's disgusting. But as I've worked through it, I'm like, hold on a minute. Massive game tomorrow, and it's in everybody's interest that we start winning. And if we're going to start winning, then we need to be supporting. And if we want to win, we need to be supporting, And that's the club, and that's the players. At 5 o'clock tomorrow, I might look back at some of this article and go, maybe it was true. But the night before the game, I'm going to go, is this a hit piece to stir negativity, like Michael says? And, you know, the more I've gone into that, the more it's just, you could write 2 weeks worth of headlines off that. There's the Rashford stuff, there's the Bruno stuff, there's the Casemiro stuff, there's the Ten Hag stuff, there's the INEOS stuff. There's just so much in there that I would say that those ESPN journalists should be winning an award for that piece. If even 10% of it is true, that's one of the best hit pieces on Man United in a decade. They're getting so much information in one article that it's incredible, which is why I think it's not mostly true. Because what I do know is that nobody's getting anything. And people are pretending that they are. And people are thinking they're getting stuff because somebody's telling them stuff, but that it's in their interest. But they are locking. I saw it in the summer transfer window. Like, I still see people now, journalists, people on Twitter, telling us about injuries, telling us about talks with managers, telling us this is happening and that's not happening. And then I go back 3 months to the summer transfer window where they were telling us this player's signing, they're looking at this player. We never signed that player. We're never even in talks with that player. So if you want a name of somebody that I would absolutely go when they talk, listen, it would be David Ornstein and Fabrizio Romano, but only because those were the two players that were getting the transfer story more or less before it broke. And that's it. They're not leaking. They're not giving stuff out from the top of that football club. So at the end of the day, if you want to know what's going on in a mansion and they won't tell you, the people living there, and you're getting your stuff from the dustbin they throw out, then a lot of the time it's going to be garbage. And I think that's what's happening. I think stuff is coming out of the club, but I think it's coming out as garbage. And I don't think we're getting stuff that we can hang our hat on that's true. And ultimately, you know, I think that Bruno Fernandes story is really, really inflammatory, as I said. But Man United might choose not to answer it because if you start answering it, you're fanning the flames, aren't you? I understand that. I think sometimes when people say stuff about you that's not true and people go, why haven't you said something about it? Why aren't you reacting to what they're saying about you? I've been in this position and it's like, if you react to it, they'll do it again because you're giving them oxygen. So maybe Man United will just go, we ain't answering to this. We're not answering to any of this. It's shit. We don't need to answer it because it's shit. So, you know. But it's been interesting going through that with you. The only thing toxic about this story is those who write the stories, says Free Immortal. They desperately want us to lose tomorrow. I think they do. And as I said, look, I'll have this conversation with anybody. I'm not particularly concerned about it. It's football at the end of the day. But, you know, I've done my Saturday night show with TalkSport for 2 years. I know how it works. They will want Man United to lose tomorrow because their call-in will be massive from 5 o'clock till probably midnight. They will want Man United to lose. And I get that. I understand that. That's how it works. Sky will want us to lose because that means they can talk about that for the hour before the Liverpool-Chelsea game when they're building up. I haven't got a problem with that. But we must all understand it, that the only people that matter are Manchester United fans. I mean, we've been doing this for 10 years, and there will be people who watch this who aren't United fans who relate to it because they feel like it about their club. There'll be people who watch it because they like to see us fail. But you know what? The only people that matter are us. I mean, the only people that really matter are the people who want to wake up tomorrow and see Manchester United win a game of football. That's all I'm focused about. You know, if there's anything I can do to make Man United win tomorrow, I'm going to do it. If I can play my part tomorrow, I'm going to do it. And I know many of you feel the same. Not everybody talking and writing about us wants that to happen. There may even be people in our fan base that want us to lose tomorrow because it might be beneficial for them. It might be beneficial for them to say, I told you so, to start typing or talking or ringing up or whatever. I hope there isn't people like that, but come on. We know. And man's got to eat. Women's got to eat. I understand it. It's the world we live in. And I get it. Why? It's why I don't have a lot of time for Man United sections on a radio show or a TV show because they're not Manchester United fans. They're not. They want to talk about Man United because it gets eyes and ears on their show. But they're not Man United fans. So when they start saying, ooh, let's talk about Man United's best 11 or what they should do in the midfield, I feel like going, yeah, why don't you fuck off? Because the minute things go bad, you're praying for us to lose. You don't support us. You don't want us to do well. You just want to talk about us. And when you talk about us, you talk about us in a negative way. You know, you twist and turn things. You start, you know, making stuff up. So, look, as I said, all I'm focused on is winning tomorrow. I can't guarantee it's going to happen. But, you know, supporting your team, and there's a massive part of me that wants to win 3-0 tomorrow and just be going, up yours, we're Manchester United. And I think a lot of people feel like that. That's why I celebrated the bloody equaliser from Maguire. That's why I celebrated the winner from McTominay a year ago, because These are crumbs. It used to be every week. We don't get it every week now. We shouldn't be talking about him beating Brentford at home being a bit of a concern. But reality is that's where we are. Liverpool were in this situation for many years. There is no divine right as a big football club to be successful. Liverpool were a laughingstock for many years in the formative years of the Premier League. They were a laughingstock. They were nowhere in the 90s. No, I don't remember Liverpool in the 90s being anything. I mean, they might have finished second one year, but I don't remember them. I don't remember Liverpool doing anything in the 90s. I really don't. And yet, they're a massive football club with a massive, impassioned, loyal fan base. Our biggest rival. And, yeah, we've got to battle through this, but we've got to remember that ultimately the only people that care about the football club are the people who support the football club. Renate's back in the chat. Not always great to see Renate back. One of our moderators pops in every now and again. And she's gifted 5 memberships. Hope you're doing well, Renate. I hope that's a good sign. I hope that's a good sign for tomorrow. Off to the game tomorrow. Can't wait. Come on, United, says Wayne. Well, we can all play our part tomorrow. Can't wait for it. Don't forget to get involved with the watch along and everything we've got planned for you tomorrow. Patrick Lynch says, remember when a TNT interviewer literally said to Ten Hag that United in chaos is good for business? Mate, I've said this to you before. It makes me laugh that people call us the negative stand because, I mean, look, in the past there have been Van Gaal out, you know, but we're the positive stand, if anything, aren't we? Because I just will not say Ten Hag out, and I've backed him from day one, and I want United to be successful, if anything, with a positive stand. But I've said this to you a couple of times. I've been doing this too long. If you ask me a question about it, I'll give you the honest answer. If I want to make money before Christmas, I need Ten Hag to get sacked. If I want to make good money and get big views between now and Christmas, I want Ten Hag out. Get Ten Hag out, you know. Come on, let's do it. Fucking INEOS are useless. Get rid of Ten Hag. We've had enough. It's time for a change. I'm not joking. That will get. We're massive. The United stand's massive. If we start that movement, we're big enough to get it going. It will cause a lot of toxicity. It will be very irresponsible. But yeah, if I started going, this is the reason to get rid of him. This is, you know. I've been down that road, and that's why, really, I try to be late on the manager. I mean, there's a lot of people in the United stand who are Ten Hag out. But that's not my focus. That's not what a fan's focus is. I'm not Ten Hag out because I don't think it's the right thing to do. I'm not saying I never will be, but I'm not. And I'm not interested in views, and I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in Manchester United being successful. And if the United stand hits 2 million, that's great. But if somebody said to me tomorrow, you'll hit 2 million in 2 months if you start trying to get the manager sacked, I'll wait. I'd rather wait 2 years to hit 2 million. It's not that important if Man United get back to being successful. I've always been like that. I want Manchester United to win. I assume that's what everybody is. But I'm very, very tired of not being successful. And I want to be successful. And that's probably why I do over-celebrate. But I don't think it is over-celebrating. If we score against Brentford tomorrow, I'll be up for it. End of the day. Fergie's chat with Ali McCoist is worth a watch. We need high standards back in the dressing room, says Julius. He's banned from the dressing room, though, isn't he? If we win and play well, then it's not true. It shuts them up. But if we lose, then the media lies start looking like the truth. We need to turn up, says John. And the moronic have done that one. Sweaty journalism. Cuddleboo. Thank you very much. I think that, just before I go, I never thought I would be saying that Brentford against Manchester United at Old Trafford would be such a big game. This is not Liverpool. It's not Man City. It's not Arsenal. It's not even Chelsea. It's not even Newcastle. It's Manchester United against Brentford, and it's absolutely massive. I think the danger of that, the upside is, if we play well, we'll win. The flip side of that is that if we lose this game, there's nowhere to hide. If you're Bruno Fernandes or Casemiro or Rashford or Garnacho or Martinez or De Ligt, the money you are on and the status you have, it is not acceptable in your own backyard to get turned over by Brentford. All due respect to Brentford, but it's not acceptable. So the stakes are high tomorrow. And I think the majority of us are excited and hopeful and behind the team. But at the end of the day, I wish I was putting the shirt on. I wish I was as good as Bruno Fernandes was and as fit as Bruno Fernandes was, because I'd go and do it, but I can't. And we're putting our faith. We'd be fine if we were playing. Every football club would be fine if their fans were playing. You might lose, but you'd give absolutely everything. I don't mind losing if we give everything and we play well, because sometimes the opposition are just better. But we're putting our faith in 11 players and they've got to turn up. Johnny Evans FC. Thanks everyone for watching. Big day tomorrow. Lots to look forward to. I think you're going to enjoy it. Take care. Stay safe. What a show tonight. Lovely working through that with you. Don't forget Surfshark. Scan the QR code and give that a go. 4 months free. And I will speak to you tomorrow. Very excited. It's going to be a big day. Come on, United. Let's do it. Take care.